Money is often described as a simple tool, a neutral resource meant only to help us achieve our goals, yet in real life it carries far more influence than we are usually comfortable admitting. From the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep, money silently shapes the structure of our days and the limits of our choices. The alarm that pulls us out of sleep, the phone we check before even leaving the bed, the electricity that lights our room, the water we use to wash our face, and the coffee or tea that starts our morning all exist within financial systems we depend on but rarely question. Despite this constant presence, many of us grow up hearing that money should not matter too much, that focusing on it is greedy, shallow, or morally questionable. This creates a deep contradiction. Money controls large parts of our lives while we pretend it does not. We are encouraged to follow our passions, yet when it comes time to choose a career, salary, stability, and long-term security often outweigh personal interest. We tell ourselves these are practical decisions, not money-driven ones, even though financial considerations sit at their core. The same is true for many of life's biggest milestones. Decisions about where to live, how long to study, whether to pursue higher education, when to get married, or whether to have children are all heavily influenced by financial readiness. Rarely do we say, I am making this choice because of money, but money is quietly present in every calculation. Social norms make this influence even more powerful. Talking openly about income, debt, savings, or financial stress is often considered uncomfortable or inappropriate, as if these realities reflect personal failure rather than systemic pressure. As a result, money becomes a silent force, shaping emotions and behaviors behind the scenes while remaining largely unspoken. Financial anxiety can follow people everywhere, slipping into moments that are supposed to be happy or relaxed. A celebration may be clouded by thoughts of expense, a vacation by guilt, and even a simple dinner out by mental calculations of affordability. Over time, this constant pressure affects more than just spending habits. It shapes confidence, self-worth, and how people imagine their future. Those with financial security often have the freedom to dream, take risks, change direction, and recover from mistakes. They can afford failure in a way others cannot. Those without it may feel trapped, cautious, and forced to prioritize survival over growth, creativity, or fulfillment. Yet society frequently frames success and failure as purely individual outcomes, praising discipline and ambition while ignoring the massive role money plays in determining access to opportunity. This narrative places blame on individuals while hiding the structural power of wealth and financial stability. By refusing to openly acknowledge how deeply money influences our lives, we lose the chance to understand it honestly and manage it wisely. We also allow it to hold emotional power over us, operating through fear, shame, and silence rather than clarity and intention. Admitting that money matters does not mean believing it defines our worth as human beings. It means recognizing that money defines our options, our margins of safety, and our ability to choose rather than simply react. When we become honest about this influence, we can begin to build a healthier relationship with money, one based on awareness instead of denial, planning instead of anxiety, and empowerment instead of quiet control. Money doesn't simply influence the choices we make in life, it seeps into every layer of how we relate to others and perceive ourselves, quietly shaping relationships and self-image in ways we often fail to acknowledge. Friendships, family bonds, and romantic partnerships are all subject to the pressures of financial differences, expectations, and insecurities, and money often tests the resilience of these connections more than we care to admit. Many arguments between couples, for instance, are rarely about love, loyalty, or compatibility in the traditional sense. Instead, They are rooted in spending habits, income disparities, or anxieties about future financial security. Yet these issues are seldom addressed directly because discussing money openly can feel taboo, shameful, or confrontational, so the tension manifests instead as frustration, resentment, or emotional distance. Individuals may feel embarrassed if they earn less than a partner, pressured to maintain a lifestyle beyond their means, or anxious about meeting shared responsibilities. In social settings, money quietly dictates dynamics such as who pays for meals, who gets invited to events, and who feels like an outsider, and these repeated small moments over time can significantly affect a person's sense of belonging and acceptance. Beyond social interactions, money has a profound impact on self-worth, as many societies have long conflated financial success with personal value. Income is often used as a shorthand measure of intelligence, ambition, and morality. So those who earn more are frequently admired and trusted, while those struggling financially are unfairly judged as lazy, careless, or incapable, regardless of their effort or circumstances. This cultural mindset fosters internalized shame, leading people to equate their bank balance with their inherent worth as human beings. Financial setbacks, even those caused by forces outside one's control, such as economic recessions, medical emergencies, or systemic barriers to opportunity, can generate intense feelings of failure and inadequacy. Social media amplifies this phenomenon by constantly presenting polished snapshots of luxury, travel, and perceived success, creating a persistent and exhausting cycle of comparison that makes it seem as if everyone else is doing better, living better, or achieving more. Even acts of generosity and kindness are not immune from these pressures. Helping someone financially can feel awkward or patronizing, while receiving help may evoke embarrassment, guilt, or humiliation. These layers of emotion, pride, fear, shame, anxiety, and envy, make money an extraordinarily sensitive topic, one people avoid discussing despite its pervasive influence. Yet avoiding these conversations only strengthens money's hold, allowing misunderstandings, resentment, and hidden stress to accumulate unchecked in relationships. When individuals and couples learn to separate their self-worth from their financial status, the dynamics of their relationships can change profoundly. Honest discussions about income, debt, spending, and financial goals not only reduce conflict, but also foster trust, empathy, and realistic expectations, allowing people to navigate differences without judgment. Viewing money as a shared challenge rather than a personal flaw enables communities and families to support each other more effectively, creating bonds that are based on understanding and cooperation rather than competition or concealment. Recognizing money's role in shaping interactions does not diminish love, respect, or connection. Instead, it equips people to manage its influence consciously rather than unconsciously. By confronting the uncomfortable truths about money, its ability to create tension, foster insecurity, and influence behavior, we gain the opportunity to reclaim control over our emotional and social lives. We can foster relationships where conversations about resources are no longer a source of shame, but a tool for building alignment, shared responsibility, and mutual understanding. Money matters in relationships not because it substitutes for affection or respect, but because ignoring it allows insecurities, misunderstandings, and unspoken pressures to accumulate silently, shaping our emotions, behaviors, and perceptions of ourselves and others without our awareness. By embracing transparency, separating self-worth from wealth, and treating finances as a shared responsibility rather than a moral verdict, people can build healthier, more authentic connections that survive the pressures of economic reality while reinforcing trust, empathy, and respect. In this way, understanding money as an emotional and relational force rather than simply a practical tool, transforms how we experience both our own lives and our interactions with those around us, allowing for deeper intimacy, more honest communication, and a more grounded sense of self in a world where money is impossible to ignore. We like to imagine that our lives are governed primarily by free will, personal effort, and the choices we make. Yet the truth is that money heavily shapes the boundaries within which our choices operate, often in ways we fail to recognize. While it is comforting to believe that anyone can succeed if they simply work hard enough, this narrative ignores the unequal starting points that define people's lives from birth. Access to quality education, reliable healthcare, safe neighborhoods, and professional networks is closely tied to financial status, meaning that a talented individual without resources may never have the opportunity to fully develop their potential, while someone with financial backing can afford mistakes, experiments, and second chances. Money acts as a buffer against failure, creating an illusion of equal opportunity where success stories are celebrated as purely the result of talent or effort, masking the financial safety nets that made them possible. Even the most mundane, everyday choices are influenced by money. Decisions about what to eat are constrained by cost, with healthier options frequently priced higher, and choices about where to live are similarly limited as proximity to work or safety comes at a premium. Time itself becomes a scarce resource when individuals are forced to juggle multiple jobs just to meet basic needs, making it impossible to follow passions or pursue personal growth. In this context, advice to simply make better choices becomes hollow, ignoring the systemic and financial constraints that limit genuine freedom. Debt compounds these restrictions, whether in the form of student loans, credit cards, or mortgages, which can shape decades of a person's life by influencing career decisions, risk tolerance, and even the places they live. People often remain in jobs they dislike, cities they have outgrown, or relationships they have emotionally left because financial obligations make change costly or impossible. Meanwhile, consumer culture constantly exerts pressure, encouraging spending as a route to identity, happiness, or social validation. Advertisements promise confidence, love, success, and belonging in exchange for purchases, keeping people trapped in a relentless cycle of earning and spending that further narrows their real choices. True freedom of choice, then, requires not just ambition or effort, but financial awareness and literacy, skills that are rarely taught in schools or emphasized in society, yet are crucial for navigating modern life. When people understand how money systems work, including the ways interest, investment, budgeting, and financial risk operate, they regain some measure of control over their decisions, learning to plan strategically, avoid unnecessary debt, and seize opportunities that might otherwise be inaccessible. Recognizing the limits money imposes on choice is not pessimistic or defeatist, it is a realistic appraisal of the social and economic landscapes, one that allows both individuals and communities to act intelligently within it. By seeing clearly how wealth, privilege, and financial resources shape the options available, people can make decisions that maximize their agency while also advocating for systems that expand opportunity for everyone, rather than perpetuating cycles where access and success are dictated primarily by money. Understanding this dynamic also reframes the narrative of personal responsibility, highlighting that effort and skill alone are insufficient to guarantee outcomes in a world where financial disparities determine the range of options from the outset. Only by acknowledging the power of money over choice can societies begin to address structural inequities, designing policies that reduce barriers to education, healthcare, safe living, and professional development. thereby widening the spectrum of real possibilities for those who begin with less. In this sense, financial awareness and systemic reform go hand in hand. Individuals gain autonomy and can navigate life more effectively, while collective efforts work to ensure that wealth is less determinative of opportunity. Money, therefore, is not merely a tool or a neutral medium for exchange. It is a defining force that delineates the contours of freedom, shapes the consequences of our decisions, and structures the very landscape in which our choices unfold. By confronting this reality honestly, rather than pretending that hard work alone levels the playing field, people can act strategically, advocate for fairness, and build lives that reflect both aspiration and practical understanding. Awareness of money's influence on choice transforms how we approach life, relationships, education, careers, and personal growth, allowing us to operate with clarity, agency, and realism in a world where financial resources remain a central determinant of possibility. Despite its enormous impact on nearly every aspect of our lives, money remains one of the most avoided topics in polite conversation, a subject that people hesitate to discuss openly even as they freely share details about relationships, health, or politics. This silence around finances is often rooted in fear of judgment, of comparison, or of exposing personal vulnerabilities. Cultural teachings reinforce this avoidance, labeling conversations about money as rude, inappropriate, or somehow morally questionable, embedding the idea that financial matters are private, taboo, or shameful. Yet this reluctance to speak openly about money comes at a steep cost. Without dialogue, misinformation spreads, and individuals make financial decisions based on assumptions, myths, social pressure, or incomplete understanding rather than on clear knowledge or strategy. Young adults enter the workforce without basic comprehension of taxes, savings, credit scores, and investment principles. Families may repeat financial mistakes across generations simply because no one teaches or discusses better approaches, and these cycles of error continue largely unchecked. The silence surrounding money also functions as a tool for maintaining inequality. When wages are hidden, pay gaps persist unchallenged, disproportionately affecting women and marginalized groups. When debt remains unspoken, people suffer alone, internalizing shame and believing they are the only ones struggling, which can lead to heightened stress, anxiety, and even depression. On a broader scale, avoiding conversations about money allows powerful systems, including financial institutions, corporations, and policy frameworks, to operate with minimal scrutiny as confusion and intimidation prevent widespread understanding and accountability. Transparency, by contrast, challenges that power dynamic by demystifying how money works and how it shapes opportunities and constraints. Talking openly about money does not mean obsessing over it or letting it dominate every conversation. Rather, it means acknowledging its undeniable role in our lives, sharing strategies, learning from mistakes, and building collective resilience. Normalizing financial conversations reduces shame, replacing it with understanding, awareness, and a sense of agency. When money is openly discussed, it loses some of its emotional weight. It shifts from being a source of fear or guilt to something that can be managed, planned for, and approached strategically. Creating safe spaces where money can be talked about within families, schools, communities, and workplaces is a crucial step toward empowerment because silence keeps people stuck while awareness generates options. Open discussion enables individuals to compare experiences, explore financial strategies, and realize they are not alone in facing debt. Navigating savings or planning for the future, it encourages intergenerational learning, helping young people acquire the tools they need to make informed decisions while equipping older generations to reflect on choices and correct missteps. Communities that normalize financial literacy foster trust and collaboration, empowering members to advocate for fair pay, challenge exploitative practices, and build safety nets for those in need. Beyond personal and interpersonal benefits, talking about money also has a societal impact as it shines a light on systemic inequalities, pressures institutions to maintain fairness, and encourages policies that expand opportunity rather than conceal privilege. By avoiding financial conversations, society allows fear, shame, and misunderstanding to dominate, but by facing the topic directly, individuals gain clarity, confidence, and control, turning money from an abstract source of anxiety into a concrete tool for planning, growth, and security. Awareness of money's realities enables people to set realistic goals, make informed choices, and reduce the emotional stress that comes from treating finances as an unspeakable burden. Over time, these conversations can reshape cultural norms, making it acceptable and even empowering to discuss income, debt, savings, and investment openly, which in turn diminishes secrecy, shame, and isolation. In this sense, talking about money is not just a practical necessity. It is an act of liberation, a way to reclaim control over one's life and choices while fostering collective understanding and resilience. When families, schools, and communities embrace financial transparency, individuals gain the ability to navigate challenges confidently, share knowledge, and build security, transforming money from a source of fear into a manageable and even empowering aspect of life. Ultimately, avoiding money conversations leaves people constrained by silence, but engaging with the topic openly creates knowledge, reduces shame, strengthens relationships, and expands opportunities, making awareness not only a personal advantage, but a social imperative. Admitting that money matters does not mean surrendering one's life to it or allowing it to define every aspect of existence. Rather, acknowledging its significance opens the door to a healthier, more intentional relationship with it, one that balances practical necessity with emotional awareness and personal values. Money is a resource, a tool designed to help us navigate life's demands, not a measure of human worth, yet society often conflates wealth with success, intelligence, and moral character, which creates unnecessary pressure and anxiety. When people stop pretending that money doesn't matter, they gain the freedom to decide consciously how much it should matter in their lives, and this begins with clarity, understanding income streams, monthly expenses, financial obligations, and long-term goals. Tracking money with awareness enables people to see not just where it goes, but why it goes there, illuminating patterns that may be driven by habit, social pressure, or emotional impulses rather than intentional choice. Beyond numbers, the shift also involves aligning money with personal values and life priorities, asking what kind of life truly feels meaningful beyond material accumulation. For some individuals, this may manifest as striving for financial independence, entrepreneurship, or the freedom to take professional risks without fear of collapse. For others, it may mean cultivating stability, flexibility, or the ability to support loved ones and contribute to community. A conscious relationship with money requires recognizing its emotional influence as well. Fear, guilt, envy, and comparison often drive spending or saving decisions more strongly than rational calculation, leading to stress, regret, or unnecessary limitation. By identifying these emotional drivers, people can make decisions that feel calmer, more deliberate, and more aligned with long-term goals rather than reactive or performative. Financial awareness also has social and systemic dimensions because redefining our relationship with money individually cannot be fully separated from the broader structures in which we operate. Societies that tie human dignity and survival too closely to income create inequities and unnecessary anxiety, questioning and reshaping these systems through fair wages, accessible education, affordable healthcare, and transparent financial practices enables individuals to thrive without being trapped by financial precarity. Individually, a conscious approach to money involves seeing it as a tool to support well-being, not as an end in itself. It means choosing how to allocate resources in ways that sustain health, relationships, personal growth, and peace of mind, recognizing that true wealth encompasses more than material accumulation and includes time, vitality, meaningful connection, and emotional stability. Money can support these aspects of life, but it cannot replace them. And understanding this distinction allows people to engage with money pragmatically rather than fearfully. As individuals gain clarity and control, money stops being a silent, invisible master dictating choices and emotions and instead becomes a visible, manageable component of life that can be leveraged intentionally. Establishing routines, budgets, or strategies for saving, investing, or giving becomes not a chore, but a practice of self-determination, allowing people to feel empowered rather than overwhelmed. This conscious engagement also reduces shame and fear, normalizing discussions about financial reality and choices, and encouraging openness about mistakes, learning, and planning, which strengthens both personal confidence and social support networks. Money matters more than many people are willing to confess, influencing the range of opportunities, the capacity for risk, and even emotional well-being. Yet by admitting this reality, individuals gain agency. They can shape money's role in their lives rather than allowing it to shape them unconsciously. Once people acknowledge money's importance, they can decide intentionally where it fits in the hierarchy of life priorities, how it should be allocated, and how it can be used to support rather than hinder their values and goals. This process transforms money from a source of stress, secrecy, and comparison into a practical, understandable, and empowering instrument, one that serves life rather than dominates it. When money is recognized openly, approached thoughtfully, and integrated into life with clarity and values-based intentionality, it ceases to be intimidating or overwhelming, becoming instead a manageable element that enhances freedom, stability, and opportunity. In this way, admitting that money matters is not a confession of greed or moral failing, it is an act of honesty and empowerment. By facing money's influence squarely, individuals can reclaim control, reduce anxiety, make aligned decisions, and cultivate a life in which financial resources function as a tool for well-being, fulfillment, and resilience. Money matters more than we like to confess, but once we do confess it, we gain the ability to define its role, shape its impact, and integrate it into life with intention, ensuring that it supports rather than constrains the choices, relationships, and experiences that truly